Are you giving class? No? Okay, you're hiding. What did you think? I was just going to continue for another hour, right? Okay, so now we'll have Bhagavad Gita class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. So we'll start by singing a small bhajan that glorifies Krishna in Vrindavan and all his pastimes. So please join along. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Yashodanandana Jaya Vraja Janaranjana Pranachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Prabhupada. Thank you all for joining along. So we'll recite some prayers now. So I'll first say it and then you can respond after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So thank you all for assembling here, to those here and also those watching online. So today we are gonna be learning something from chapter 4, verse number 38. So I will recite the verse now, and then we do the same, the call and response fashion. Nahiyanena sadrisham pavitram ta vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalinatmani vindati. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalinatmani vindati. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalinatmani vindati. Anyone would like to try to recite it from the audience? Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalinatmani vindati. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate tatsvayam yoga samsiddha kalinatmani vindati. Anyone else? Okay, so we'll go to the translation. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in the due course of time. Purport by Shri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When we speak of transcendental knowledge, we do so in terms of spiritual understanding. As such, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Ignorance is the cause of our bondage, and knowledge is the cause of our liberation. This knowledge is the mature fruit of devotional service, and when one is situated in transcendental knowledge, he did not search for peace elsewhere, for he enjoys peace within himself. In other words, this knowledge and peace culminate in Krishna consciousness. That is the last word in the Bhagavad Gita. So now we will recite some prayers to invoke auspiciousness and also take blessings from the previous acharyas. So if you know the prayers, you can please recite with me. Om ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादां सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Once again, welcome everyone to the Bhagavad Gita class, and thank you for being here. So before I start saying anything on this verse, I would like to seek blessings from everyone assembled here, especially my seniors, and I pray that I'm able to speak something that is purifying for myself and also of some benefit to you all. So before I start talking about the verse, I have a question for you all. How many of us have experienced that even after getting whatever we wanted, be it money, success, relationships, or whatever we desired for, we still felt like there's some emptiness inside us, like it's never been enough? Yes, me too. I'll raise my hand as well.
I'm still waiting to get the thing I want.
Oh. Yeah, isn't it? It's like no matter whatever, whenever we get something, we're always hankering for something more. And that is why the emptiness always remains within us. It's like, okay, we want to achieve a degree. Okay, we have gotten that. What next? Move on to the next degree. And so on, that's life. But this question itself is the doorway to today's verse. Because in this verse, Krishna is addressing that inner emptiness that we have. And he addresses that it's not an external problem, it's an internal problem. So today's verse, the 4.38, is one of the most hopeful verses actually. Because in this verse, Krishna is actually not demanding for any perfection. He's promising purification through understanding, which seems simple enough, I guess. So just before we get into the verse, we can do a quick recap and have a background and context as to what is happening in this chapter. So chapter 4 is actually entitled The Transcendental Knowledge. And transcendental knowledge is basically a knowledge about divine, about Krishna. Knowing this knowledge, it helps us build that relationship with Krishna. So in the beginning, Krishna starts this chapter by explaining that this wisdom that he's imparting on Arjuna is actually ancient, and it's eternal. It was always there, but it has always been existing. And it has been passed down to disciplic succession. But over the time, this knowledge, it was lost. Not because the knowledge disappeared, but rather people stopped living it and practicing it. So Krishna came again to give this knowledge to Arjuna. And Arjuna was just the instrument. Actually, this knowledge is meant for us. Because, as it is said, Bhagavad Gita is our guide. the guide of how to live. So throughout this chapter, Krishna actually covers many things, but one of the big questions that he answers is, how do we become free from suffering while still living in this world? So the answers he unfolds gradually along many slokas, but in summary, what he says is that we can do this through proper actions, so that is by performing karma yoga, through devotion, bhakti, devotional service, and also through transcendental knowledge. And this verse, particularly 38, is like a summary jewel of this chapter. Now, just recapping on the last few verses, which is also talking about transcendental knowledge. So, verse 4.34, Krishna is revealing how this knowledge is received. And this is a very famous verse. So, in this verse, Krishna is actually trying to tell us that how do we learn this knowledge? And he says that just try to learn the truth. Just try to learn this knowledge by actually approaching a bona fide spiritual master. And how do you approach this spiritual master? We approach the spiritual master with humility, inquiry, and in a mood of service. So humility, it's very understandable. And I think it's very practical, because whenever we try to learn something new in our life, any new skills that we want to learn, let's say driving, for example, we approach for guidance. We approach someone who is already skilled with that skill. We don't go to that person thinking that, oh, I know everything, but rather we go seeking for some help, thinking that we actually know, maybe we know something, but we would like to learn more from you. And the same principle applies to our spiritual life. When you're approaching a spiritual master, we don't go with a full cup. We have to leave some space so that we can get new things from the spiritual master. If we go with a full cup, whatever he tries to pour in that cup, everything is lost, because it will just overflow and be lost. So, and also we need to be inquisitive. We need to inquire. But we have to be careful that we're actually asking honest questions and not challenging the spiritual master, because there's a difference. If we go in the mood of challenging the spiritual master, it is our loss. But if we actually go with proper question, because we have doubts in our mind, then the spiritual master will be more than happy to help us. And also, we need to serve our spiritual master. We need to go in a mood of service, because knowledge flows to a serving heart. So if we try to serve our spiritual master, he will be pleased and also gladly impart knowledge upon us. So that was verse 4.34. I'm just saying it in brief, so that we can get to today's verse, which is 4.38. Then in the next verse, 4.35, Krishna is explaining what does this knowledge do? What is the purpose of this knowledge? And Krishna says that by having this knowledge, it actually removes our illusion. And when that illusion is removed, then we begin to see. We begin to see who we are. And who are we? Who are we actually? Are you Marilia? Yes, exactly. We are soul. And we also see who others are. Who are others? They are also spirit soul. And then we understand how everything is connected to Krishna. Because we realize that if everyone is just part and parcel of Krishna, then everything is connected to Krishna. And when we have this knowledge, when we actually understand this knowledge, it changes our perception, not only beliefs. And a simple way to understand this is, imagine that you have some problem with your eyes, and you go to the doctor, and the doctor prescribes you some prescription glasses. I can relate. So when you put on these prescription glasses, the world around you does not change. It is still the same. The way it was before you put on the glasses and the way it is after you put on the glasses is still the same. But what changes is your vision, the way you're seeing things. So similarly, when we are equipped with this transcendental knowledge, when we are full of this knowledge, the way we see things around us changes. The way we see people changes. We don't just see someone. I don't see Marilia as Marilia. I see Marilia as part and parcel of Krishna, as a servant of Krishna. And when I have that vision, the way I will relate to her will be different. And we see an example of this in our scriptures in Bhagavatam, and that is Prahlad Maharaj. So he's there in Narasimhadev's picture. So we see that his father, he tried torturing him, he tried killing him, his own father. But even after that, when Hiranyakashipu killed, when Narasimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, even after that, Prahlad Maharaj, when he was asked what does he want, he answered that he only wants that his father to be liberated, that Narasimhadev should forgive his father and liberate him. So you see, even after going through all that experience that he did with like his murderous father, even then he could just see his father as an instrument of the Lord. And he didn't have any resentment towards him, any hatred towards him, nothing. And that is the heart of a pure devotee. That's the vision of a pure devotee. And I don't know if we have ever tried to see this way or contemplate life in such a way. If we actually start to notice that our problems, they are just a stepping stone, they're just lessons, not punishment. We experience the problems in a different way. And this is just the beginning of transcendental knowledge. Then the next verse, which is 4.36, Krishna is explaining that no one is disqualified to receive this knowledge. Anyone and everyone can receive this knowledge. And Krishna is giving us hope in this verse, because he says that even if you're most sinful, this knowledge can carry you across the ocean of suffering. And this is really huge, because sometimes people think that, people try to avoid the spiritual life, thinking that let me first fix myself, or let me correct this way of living, let me correct that. But Krishna says, no, just come as you are. And the spiritual life will actually fix us from within, from inside, and not the other way around. We don't have to try and fix ourselves and then approach Krishna. Approach Krishna, whatever stage you are in. And when we start practicing spirituality, when we try to learn about Krishna, something is going to start getting fixed inside us. And the simple analogy that I can give is, so our heart, it's covered with dust. The dust of ego, guilt, anger, lust, so many things. And this is from lifetimes and lifetimes. And when we actually start inquiring about Krishna, when we actually start to learn about Krishna, try to get this knowledge, practice devotion, that dust slowly starts clearing. And when that dust clears, when the mirror is cleaned, then it only reflects Krishna. We're able to see Krishna again, and we're able to connect to him. And we also have example of such in our scriptures. I don't know if you have heard about Ajamil. So he was a Brahmin, but a very sinful Brahmin. So he got enamored by a prostitute, and he lost his Brahminical ways. But at the time of death, all he did was call his son, whose name was Narayan. And because of that, he was saved from going to hell. He was saved by Krishna's dutas, the Vishnu dutas. So, it's just a relief for us who are trying in this journey, who are the beginners, that we don't need a clean past. All we need is a sincere present effort. And then the verse just before this, 4.37, Krishna is saying that knowledge burns all karma. Just as firewood, just as fire burns wood into ashes, similarly knowledge burns reactions of past activities. And it's not selective. Just like if you put something in front of the fire, it's not going to select what am I going to burn. It's just going to burn everything that comes on its way. Similarly, when we inquire, when we get this transcendental knowledge, it burns all our past activities. It's not selective. And in Mahabharata we see, in fact, in this Gita, in the first chapter, we see that Arjun, he's overwhelmed with guilt, with grief. He doesn't want to fight. He has given up. But when Krishna starts imparting this knowledge upon him, suddenly all his confusions, they get burnt away. And then he's ready to fight and follow Krishna's instruction. And then we come to today's verse. So if you see the translation, so it is very powerful. Krishna is making a bold statement, but he's not exaggerating here. It is an absolute statement. Because Krishna knows, he knows that the problem is actually not lying outside, it is within ourselves. And that's why let's try to break this verse into like pieces and try to understand what actually Krishna is trying to tell us. So he starts this verse by saying, in this world. And Krishna just didn't say it to catch our attention. He's emphasizing this phrase. Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Gaur Nitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So Krishna is starting this verse by saying in this world because he knows that in this world there are many things that appear to be pure but actually aren't. And example of such includes charity, austerity, yoga, sacrifice, morality, religious ritual. I know you must be thinking that all these actually, they are good things. But are they really pure? That's the question. So Krishna says that yes, these things are good, definitely good. But among all of them, nothing is as pure as transcendental knowledge. And why is this? Because everything else can be contaminated by ego. Anything else that we do, if we do charity, if we do austerity, yoga, this all can be affected by ego. And actually I can give a personal example. So a few months back, I think it was just a few months that I came to the ashram, and one of the services that I do is take care of flower shed. In fact, my friends, they tease me saying that the flower shed is my bhajan kutir, because I'm most of the time there. So yeah, one of the services I like doing that, like doing in there, it's like cleaning, making sure that it's in good condition. And during festivals, it gets wild in there. Everything is everywhere. You cannot find anything anywhere. So just like that, one of the days, I decided to do a maha cleaning of the flower shed. So that means I took out everything from the shelves. I took out all the flower buckets, and I cleaned the whole thing. And it was like a 2-day project for me. It was intensive cleaning. And once I was done with that, I went to Jagat Priya Mataji, who is in charge of us, and then I told her, I went to her and I told her, oh, did you go have a look at the flower shed? I didn't know what she told me. She was like, why? Are you proud of your work? And at that instant, I realized that, my immediate answer was like, no, I'm not proud. But then later I thought about it. Actually, she got me right on point. I went to ask her this because even though I didn't realize it, it was very subtle, but pride had creeped in. Just because I did a good work, I wanted recognition for it. I wanted her to tell me that, oh yes, you did amazing work. So you see, it's not something that we actually, even though we know that we're not supposed to be proud of it, but it just crept in. So yeah, that was a lesson for me, and that now I remember. Whenever I do something, very rarely I do something good, but I remember that, yes, this is all for Krishna, and this is not you, you're just an instrument. So keep your pride aside. So, yeah, so then similarly, if people do charity, the pride gets inflated because obviously you're doing a philanthropic work, you're helping people, so pride does creep in. Similarly, austerity, it can also increase false ego. So again, when my brother and we were younger, we would actually, when we would fast for Janmashtamis or Nirjala Ekadashi, after the fast, we would sit down and count like who fasted the longest. When was the last meal for the other person? So yes, all inflating our false ego. Then yoga can also lead to desire for powers. Many people try to practice some yogic process to attain siddhis. So everything can be contaminated, but it's only the spiritual knowledge, when we try to attain this, it humbles our heart. So that was the part about why Krishna is mentioning in this world, because he knows the condition of this world. Then moving on to the next phrase, he says, there is nothing so sublime and pure. So what is he trying to mean when he says that there's nothing as pure? So in this context, purity, it does not mean moral perfection, but rather is referring to freedom from any selfish desires. So that's what he means by when he's saying pure. In this world, one of the things that is said to be pure, or it should be pure, is the feeling of love. But even that is contaminated. It's mixed. You know, we even if we have a loving relationship with someone, then there's expectations, there's control, there's fear of loss. Everything it's mixed. It's not pure anymore. But transcendental knowledge, it purifies this motive of love. And we have scriptural evidence of this and scripture example of this. And who can say what example? Who is the purest in that form? Mm-hmm. Who shows the purest form of love? Yeah, but among his devotees? Gopis, yes, the gopis. You know, so gopis, they serve Krishna without expecting anything. They don't want anything from him. No liberation, no recognition, no rewards, absolutely nothing. All they want is to please Krishna. And there's actually a pastime that comes to my mind regarding that. So I'll just say it in brief, thinking of the time. So once Krishna had a headache. Yeah, even Krishna can have headaches. So he had a headache. And then everyone got worried, like, how do we cure Krishna? So Narad Muni, he went to many people saying that, the only way to cure Krishna is if you give the dust off your lotus feet. Everyone refused, thinking that how can we do this? It's going to be a great offense, it's going to be a great sin. But then when he went to the gopis and he told them that yes, Krishna has a headache and the only cure is if you give the dust off a lotus feet, like dust off your pure devotee's lotus feet. The gopis, without any hesitation, without thinking twice, at once, they were like, yes, please take it away. Narad Muni was surprised. He's like, aren't you scared that you're going to get sin, like you're going to be committing an offense? The gopis are like, no, we don't care. As long as Krishna gets relief, that's all that matters. So that is the love of the gopis. Because their knowledge is completely pure. And actually Srila Prabhupada writes that this is the highest perfection of knowledge, to know Krishna and only act for his pleasure. So keeping the time in mind, I'll move on to the next session, which is transcendental knowledge. So we need to understand that what this knowledge is not. So Krishna is not talking about academic degrees. I know people in this world today, we're all hankering after degrees, one after another. For what? Because we believe that, the more degrees we have, the more material enjoyment we're going to have a good position in companies, we're going to earn a lot of wealth, and in result, be in more suffering. That's the end result. So no, Krishna is not talking about academic degrees. He's not talking about memorizing verses. He's not talking about winning philosophical debates, none of that. But what he's actually referring to in transcendental knowledge is knowing that I'm not this body. I know many of us say that we're not this body, but again, how many of us actually live it and how many of us actually practice it? So he's talking about I'm not this body. He's talking about knowing that Krishna is actually the supreme person, supreme personality of Godhead, and also knowing your relationship with him. This is what he's referring to when he talks about transcendental knowledge, not anything else. And Srila Prabhupada, he often said that if you understand Krishna, you understand everything. But again, don't quote me on this and say that we don't need to try for our material education. No, that is also important. But even after we have all of that, even if we put in all our effort and get our degrees and everything, but if we don't know Krishna, then all of that is incomplete. So to have a complete knowledge of everything, it is important that we have this transcendental knowledge. Then in the translation, Krishna is saying, this transcendental knowledge is actually the mature fruit of all mysticism. And this is actually one of the important phrases in this verse. What Krishna is trying to explain to us through this is that all the yoga systems, be it Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, they all exist to reach this point. So when we practice Karma Yoga, it purifies our actions. When we practice Jnana Yoga, it purifies our understanding. Dhyana Yoga purifies our focus, and Bhakti Yoga, purification of love. So this knowledge in this verse is not actually the goal, but it is the result of bhakti. And the example of this is Narad Muni. We see that Narad Muni, he did not just sit down to study and get the realization. He actually served devotees, and he did it with humility. And as a result of that, the transcendental knowledge awakened in his heart. So similarly, yes, we need to perform devotional service, we need to perform bhakti yoga in order to actually realize this knowledge. And Srila Prabhupada, he also confirms this, that devotional service is so powerful that knowledge automatically flows. If we try to perform devotional service with sincere heart, with our open mind, the knowledge eventually flows. And then the next thing he says in this verse is that one who knows this transcendental knowledge, he actually enjoys this knowledge within himself. So we need to understand that knowledge is actually experienced. It cannot be imposed on anyone. It's not forced upon anyone. We cannot force someone to sit down and study. You need to actually experience this knowledge. Because then you start feeling the signs and symptoms of the knowledge. You realize that you have more clarity, you have more inner clarity. You see that you naturally get detached from all the material entanglements that you tie yourself with. You're less attracted towards sense gratification or trying to fulfill your senses. You don't have to be forceful to show compassion to people, because when you understand that everyone is related to Krishna, you're naturally compassionate towards everyone. And the other thing that it helps you with is that, we know that this life is very turbulent. It is a roller coaster ride. It comes with its ups and downs. But even in all that chaos, you remain stable. Because Krishna is behind it all. No matter what happens, Krishna is there with you. So even if there's ups in your life, it's Krishna's blessings. And if there are downs, then it's also his blessings. Because you never know. There might be something even worse that could have happened, but Krishna is saving you from it. So everything, that Krishna's hand is there. And, in scriptures we have the example of Ambarish Maharaj. He was a king with many responsibilities, but he was always internally fixed in Krishna. So knowledge did not remove his duties, but it anchored him internally. So similarly, when we gain this knowledge, we don't run away from responsibilities. We don't run away from our material responsibilities. But what we learn to do is actually fix ourselves with Krishna. We put Krishna in the center, and then we act around him. And then Krishna ends this translation on this verse by saying that it is in due course of time. And this is actually a very reassuring line for us, because he's not saying that this is going to happen immediately, that once we start to try and learn about Krishna, try to gain this transcendental knowledge, it's not an immediate process. It's not going to happen instantly or overnight. But it happens in due course of time. And Prabhupada says regarding this that, he reassures us that just stick to the process sincerely. Results will come eventually. And, the analogy that I can give is like when we try to sow a seed, we have to wait, isn't it? We have to give it, we have to be patient, we have to take care of it, we have to water it, we have to give it the nutrients that it requires. We need to take care of it. We need to put in some effort. And eventually it will grow and reap the fruits. So similarly, we need to have some time, practice sincerely. So we need to hear regularly, chant regularly, serve regularly, and the knowledge will inevitably awaken within our heart. So we need to understand that we are actually suffering from a chronic disease in this earth. I know many of us don't realize this, but we need to open our eyes and realize that it's actually a chronic disease. And we have just forgotten about it. What we try to do is find some temporary solution. Just like in chronic disease, we try to treat the symptoms. Like let's say someone is suffering from some pain in that chronic disease. We give them painkillers. But is that the cure? No, it's just a temporary relief. So similarly, this life, we are suffering chronically, and we have forgotten about it. And the cure for this disease is devotional service, bhakti. It's not a temporary relief, it is actually the cure. And once we realize this, and once we actually try to practice this, we will see that slowly, gradually, we're getting cured of this disease. The other way we can understand this is like, we often hear that this material world is like an ocean of suffering. And knowledge and devotion is actually the boat. The guru is captain, and scriptures are favorable winds. Now it's on us whether we decide if you want to get on that boat and go across this ocean, or be stubborn and think about swimming across this ocean. The choice is ours. It's up to us if you want to put the effort, if you want to have that desire to actually cross this ocean with the help of knowledge and devotion, which is our boat, or just swim across it. Which one do you think is a wiser decision? I leave it upon you guys to contemplate. So, all of you have assembled here and must be wondering that how can we actually practice this verse in our life daily? It's actually very simple. You just have to hear that, like all of you are already doing now. So thanking you for that. I mean, I can see that everyone is very attentive. So you just have to keep doing this. And thanks to today's world, especially after COVID, we have everything available online. We just have to log in, just have to tune in, and we get to hear Gita, we get to hear Bhagavatam, we have to hear about Krishna. We can chant sincerely, even if it's imperfect. It's always quality over quantity, remember that. And it does not take long, just takes 10 minutes of your time, just to do one round and remember Krishna. We can ask questions. There are always so many sadhus around. When you come to the temple and you find someone, there's Anantachyuta Prabhu here. He's our like temple encyclopedia. He knows everything. So when you see him, just ask him. Stop him, ask him. Jagat Premataji is there. So many seniors in our temple. David Prabhu is also here. So when you see them, just stop them and ask them something. Think about something that's been bothering you, something that you want to really learn about. Until you try to dig it, you're not gonna know that. Then the other thing that you can do is, you can associate. So again, when you try to ask questions, you're associating with these devotees. And association is really powerful, it's really impactful. When you see someone, how they're living their lifestyle, how this knowledge has actually helped them, when you see it in action, you realize that, okay, maybe I can also try to apply this in my life. And Prabhupada often says that even a little advancement on this path saves one from the greatest fear. And what is the greatest fear? Greatest fear? Death, yes, of course. Everyone's scared of death. Anyone here who says they are not scared of death? Any brave soul? Yeah, I thought so. So, yeah, any little advancement that we make, any small step that we take, it actually saves us from this repeated cycle of birth and death. Because when we try to learn about Krishna, when we try to perform devotional activity, this is all stored in our permanent bank balance. And eventually, one day, it will lead us to Krishna. We just have to keep trying. We have to keep putting in our effort, and it will lead us to Krishna. We just have to have the faith, because Krishna is assuring us of that. It's not something that I am saying. We have seen the examples in our scriptures, and Krishna is also reassuring us of that. So just to conclude my class, the summary of all this verse and what Krishna is actually trying to tell Arjuna and us, basically, more to us than to Arjuna. He's trying to reassure us that you're actually not lost, and you're not late. It's never late. And no one is unqualified. We're all qualified. All we have to do is try and have that desire and try to pursue this knowledge. Because transcendental knowledge is the purest thing. And because it brings us back to eternal identity as servants of Krishna. And when that knowledge awakens, life may still challenge us, but it will never feel meaningless again, because Krishna is with us. So I will conclude here. We still have a few minutes, and I will leave it open for any comments. And if there are any questions, I'll direct it to seniors. Yes, Prabhu.
One thing is, so here it says, enjoy this knowledge within himself. How do you enjoy knowledge within?
So as I was explaining, you start, when you learn this knowledge, you start to experience things like signs and symptoms of that knowledge. So basically, I was mentioning that it gives you inner clarity, you naturally get detached from things. So if you don't have this knowledge, oftentimes we are very disturbed by very simple things. Like, let's say I have an argument with someone, someone close to me. Now, if I have this knowledge, what I will try to see is, okay, what is Krishna trying to teach me from this? Or, what am I missing from this? Instead of that, we start just looking at the faults, we start contemplating on it, we start really putting our energy in it. But once with the knowledge, we have more clarity in thought, and we are able to better face the situation, I would say. Yeah, that's my understanding of it. And yeah, it's like we are better situated to face the challenges in life. So it doesn't bother us as much as it would. I mean, if you have something else to add. Anyone else has any comment? Yes, Mataji.
Thank you very much. Here you said that transcendental knowledge, transcendental knowledge burns all our karma. But also in chapter 18, we learn that surrendering to Krishna burns all the karma.
Yes.
So are these the same, or complementary, or so how do we understand that, or what both could be?
Yeah.
But, this one could.
So the way I understand this is, yes, surrender does help burn the karma, but in order to reach that stage of surrendering, it's a process. Like, let's say if you have to get in a relationship with someone, are you just blindly going to go and be in a relationship? First you try to find out about that person, isn't it? You try to learn about that person. You try to know something about the person. You don't just blindly step into that relationship with the person. So similarly, it's a process. So when we try to learn about Krishna, because what is transcendental knowledge at the end of the day? It is about Krishna. We're trying to know about the Supreme. We're trying to know about that relationship that we have with Him. So when we try to learn this, eventually it leads us, because I mentioned before that this is not actually the goal. The goal is bhakti. The goal is pure devotional love for Krishna. So this is just a process. So while we are in this process, that yes, it does help burn our karmas, but eventually it leads us to pure devotional service, which leads us to completely surrender on to Krishna, and then everything else is left on him. So that's my understanding.
So basically, the result of knowledge.
Yes. Yeah, it's not our goal. Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
not
That's my understanding, yeah. Anyone else wants to add anything to it? Okay, any other question, any other comment? Yes?
You were saying that when we are equipped with spiritual vision, we see things in a different way. So I was just wondering, how can we equip ourselves with spiritual vision? How can we change our vision?
Yeah, simply like we try to learn about Krishna. So read scriptures, hear scriptures, and when we do that, basically we are equipping ourselves with transcendental knowledge, listen from gurus. So yeah, I mean that's what I can think of. I don't know if that answers your question. Anyone else? Anything else? We have 3 minutes.
Quick question. Sharing the knowledge, leading on from the question there.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sharing knowledge, is it a condition that somebody needs to have when sharing the knowledge?
Sorry, I didn't.
When it comes to Krishna sharing his knowledge with Arjuna,
Mm-hmm.
there was a condition was created in terms of the war and the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Likewise, here you are sharing your knowledge to us,
Mm-hmm.
we are in this condition here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is that a prerequisite in terms of sharing knowledge from your course?
As far as I know, Prabhupada has often said that we are all gurus. We can all be preachers. As long as we are following bona fide scriptures, as long as we have the clear understanding of what our scriptures are telling us, we can all share knowledge. Whatever we learn, whatever we know, we can all share it to someone else. And actually that is beneficial, because then you're just giving this knowledge to so many other people. All of you have assembled here today, and maybe if you are watching online, but that's the number that I have reached out to today. And maybe you will get something from this class today, and when you go home, you can discuss it with someone else. That's still sharing knowledge. But as long as it is bona fide, and as long as it is in line with what our previous acharyas have told us, everyone is a guru and everyone is a preacher.